Good evening and welcome to the Mayor's Annual State of the City Address. Before we turn the floor over to Mayor Wood, a couple items of housekeeping. Welcome to those of you who are in attendance with us this evening. If you would take a moment out of respect for his honor and not to interrupt his flow, if you would check your cell phone to make sure that you've placed it on vibrate or silent or turned it off, we'd appreciate that. And then if you would, those of you under our standing rules, if you have a hat on, if you could please remove it during tonight's proceedings, we would appreciate that as well. So thank you for your cooperation on those 2 points. And with that, please join us in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And with that, it is my privilege to introduce to you our one and only speaker this evening, our friend and colleague, the Honorable David A. Wood, the Mayor of Mishawaka. Mr. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, council members. Welcome to the 121st State of the City of Mishawaka. This is a milestone event for us tonight because it is the last in our council chambers here. I have a lot of good memories of the states of the city in these chambers. I can remember Mayor Bob, as a council member, Mayor Bob reading word for word the entire state of the city. I think as punishment to the council is why he did that. I can remember my very first state of the city, which lasted about 3.5 hours. So strap in, hope you brought your pillows. We've got a long night ahead. But anyway, this year I'm going to shake things up a little bit. I'm going off script. The good news is that it may be shorter. The bad news is that you never know what might come out, which makes the highly overrated staff very nervous. It's a huge risk, and if I'm not careful, I might get slapped before the end of the night. But it's my job to put out big vision and make big promises, and I can only do that with the full confidence and knowledge that our dedicated staff of public servants always delivers. They are outstanding at what they do, the best of the best. Shh, don't tell them I said that. But if I can have them stand up. I know they're usually sitting in the back pews, but if we can have our staff members. It's the honor of my life to work with them. Speaking of the staff, I'd like to thank several of them for their great work putting this State of the City report together. That team came through in a big way. That's Carl Kopek, Tim Brill, Ken Prince, and Brent, who always does a great job putting it all to the press, getting it all buttoned up, Brent Chupp. And this is the official State of the City booklet. This is what we are here to report, and it is made up of annual reports of all of our city departments with an executive summary. And so every department manager has had input into this, and I thank them as well. This is available first thing tomorrow to our public at mishawaka.in.gov. So what is the state of our city? Where 2020 proved to be a challenging year for the city, the state, and the country, 2021 gave us glimpses of pre-pandemic normalcy, but also some volatility. Despite our challenges, we remain strong and getting stronger. We're growing even faster lately. We're financially stable and holding steady. And we are safe, and we are getting safer, bucking the trend in the opposite direction of most places, surrounding neighbors, and many places around the country. The theme of this year's State of the City, which I always like to do a theme, is getting big projects done. And you don't have to drive far in Mishawaka without coming across several big projects. There's not much left to say about COVID, and I hate to say that we're getting good at dealing with the pandemic, but I believe that we handled it better than most for the second straight year. I am confident that history will show that Mishawaka's common sense approach was the right approach. We are the only government that remained open without interruption to any of our services. I know of no other government, local, state, or federal, that can say such a thing. Not one. And for that, I'm immensely proud. We have not quite defeated the pandemic yet, but we are continuing to deal with it and the variants, and especially the long-term economic impacts of the pandemic. Recovery has been made more complicated by other unrelated factors whose consequences we are feeling and will feel right here in the Princess City in the months to come. Initially, right out of the pandemic, we saw significant unemployment, which with extended unemployment benefits. That led to people staying out of the workforce maybe longer than otherwise would have occurred. Several blamed that for the lack of workers in the community. But what is more prevalent is the generational shift where we are at. We have come to the end of the baby boom generation as a significant member of the workforce. Most have retired out. The following generations, Generation X, my own generation, the millennial generation, Generation Z, Generation Y, they're much smaller. And so that's leading to fewer workers around our community. I remember when I first got involved running for city government, every campaign was about jobs, jobs, jobs. Now, they're all about workers, 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 and not being able to find enough workers. We have seen Mishawaka businesses go out of business because they cannot find enough workers. Who would have ever in a million years thought they would have seen that? Other factors are causing issues for us as well. The high cost of housing is going to have an impact on us. And I was talking to some realtors the other day at a realtor forum, and they said that last year alone, the price of some real estate went up 30% in 1 year. That's going to have an impact on affordable housing. We're also seeing fuel increase at much the same trajectory. Supply chain constraints, some caused by the pandemic, many not, but are having an impact not only in our local stores and shops, but also here at the city. We can't get certain things that are vital for us to complete projects. We can't get police cars that we ordered over a year ago. Inflation is at 8% and growing, which is a 40-year high, and will have a significant impact on our city. And of course, recently the war in Europe that broke out, with the president just a couple of days ago warning that it could lead to real food shortage throughout the country and around the world. There's not much we can do about stimulus, but we can have an impact here in our own hometown. And we did so by coming up with the city's largest recovery initiative, which was meant to stimulate our local economy specifically through construction. We call it the Mishawaka Stimulus 1.0. I call it MishStim 1.0, but I'd like to thank our council for buying into that really bold move to keep people in our community working. I believe initially we timed it perfectly. Speaking of 1.0, that's about the interest we got on our $45 million bond that we took out to complete some significant projects. And we awarded those first wave of projects, and they were exclusively under estimate. The fundamentals have changed. Now bids are coming back much higher as a result of much more money in the economy, as a result of companies not having capacity to do work. So bidders are scarce, which also leads to higher bids. But we are still getting our big projects done, and we are using union local labor as we promised, almost exclusively. And it is providing for high quality projects, many of which you will see and some of which I will report on tonight. Of course, part of the reason that we are seeing such volatility is because the federal government has pumped so much money into the economy. $11.8 million was pumped right into Mishawaka, and we did what we tend to do. First thing is to recognize our staff for doing such outstanding work, especially through a pandemic when others were shut down, ours reported for work. Our top priority was to pay premium pay for those doing that work, taking on extra responsibility, extra duties that are not anywhere near in their job description, but they stepped up and did it, and making us all proud. And so recently we've seen some updated guidance, and we had a public meeting, we threw out a framework, but based on updated guidance, we can now claim $10 million as revenue replacement. So I am proposing that we do exactly that we claim $10 million as revenue replacement, and I am proposing that we modify our strategy slightly, and we would be happy to have public meetings if need be to do that. But what I'm proposing is that we put $3 million into public safety. I'm proposing that we put $6 million into infrastructure, which benefits every single ratepayer, every single citizen in the city of Mishawaka. And I'm proposing that we do $1.8 million in discretionary funding for ourselves and the council to deal with as we see fit. So statutorily, the reason why I do a state of the city is that it is required by law, and it's required to report on the city's finances. So let's start with our finances, where all things begin with us, the budget. Budgets are about priorities, and as always, we place a priority on honestly balanced budgets with conservative spending principles that fund our services and protect our staff from the economic cycles long term. And that strategy works, and Mishawaka is proof of that. Last year, our budget was at $58.3 million, which was up at 3%. Our assessed valuation came in $1,615 million. That was up 5%. So these 30% real estate gains, we're still not seeing those yet. We're hoping that continues, that we see increases in assessed valuation. Right now, we're seeing very modest, slow gains. Our circuit breaker kicked in. Now, last year and for this year, our losses were $8.3 million, which are the highest to date. That is a significant concern for us and reason why we spend conservatively and why we have been planning for a very long period of time. Our tax rate held steady at $1.99, just down very slightly. Our budget was tighter than normal due to the increased raises that we gave our staff. We do feel like that was warranted, especially given the inflation, but also there's a lot of competition for workers, and we're seeing that at the city level as well. So that helps us in that regard. But anyway, expenses have surpassed revenue, and that is an uncomfortable position to be in long term. Good news. Well, population is the ultimate measure, in my opinion, of the success of a community. Last year, we got the results of the decennial census. The good news is that Mishawaka is growing, and now at an even faster pace. We grew at 6.2%, added 2,811 residents to the Princess City, which makes us the fastest growing community in St. Joseph County. And where are we growing at, you might ask? We're seeing growth on our far north side, and we are seeing growth in our downtown. Who would have ever thought? This proves that our long-term planning, our long-term strategy, and our investments in quality of life are paying off. Speaking of priorities, public safety is our top priority and public service number one. There is no service provided by local government more vital than public safety, and Mishawaka puts its money where its mouth is. It is the biggest expenditure of our budget. I'm also pleased to report that crime has dropped again in 2021. I say again, crime has dropped in 2021. Overall crime reporting numbers have decreased 10 of my 12 years as mayor and 3 straight years running. The 2020, the crime rate in the city of Mishawaka fell by a whopping 20%, so the year previous, because of the pandemic, but because of that, we fully expected an increase in 2021. Perhaps the best news tonight is that crime continues to drop. The fact that we had a continued decrease, even more so, even because it's at 0.3%, very slight, but it's an amazing statistic because the largest gain in our, because of the gains in our population and the thousands of people that come and visit our community on a daily basis. That's an even bigger reason why we're happy with this crime reduction. And the largest decreases occurred in homicide and in burglary. And this is not just me saying it, this is the uniform crime reporting data that comes from the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. That being said, we had more calls for service at the police department. They answered 1,595 more calls for service in 2021 compared to 2020. That equates to just under 5 more calls per day and 1.3 calls per shift. This increase in activity corresponds to our continued growth and increased numbers of visitors, as I said, to our city from beyond, and all while seeing a reduction of the overall number of crimes. We continue to attract the best recruits and lateral transfers. We have been consistently at or near full staff for the first time that I can remember in my 22 years being involved in city government. No other local community, let alone many departments around the state of Indiana, can say that. And I continue to support our officers without fail as they do their jobs. They're very dangerous jobs. I have their backs as they have ours. And at a time when other communities are talking about defunding police, we are increasing our already substantial investment in Mishawaka Police Department and by extension, public safety for our community. Just within the last year, we've created, staffed, and outfitted and trained a new major crimes unit in response to the disbanding of the county's Metro Homicide Unit. And we hired our first civilian crime lab tech. We've also created a new rapid response team to respond to big events of civil unrest. And tomorrow, we kick off our new Special Investigation and Cold Case Investigation Unit after I swear in 3 former and retired police officers, Tim Corbett, Jim Campbell, and Dave Dosman, tomorrow at Board of Public Works and Safety. Later this year, we are looking to hire part-time retired officers to assist us with park patrols, facility security, and special events coverage, freeing up our uniformed division officers to stay in their beats and patrol Mishawaka neighborhoods. And we are building a new state-of-the-art police station with a command center and all kinds of new cutting-edge capabilities and technology. We have employed new technologies such as flock cameras, which might be better recognized as license plate readers that act as kind of additional officers on our street. This very proactive tool alerts our officers real time when stolen vehicles or vehicles involved in serious crime enter into our city. I aim to double the amount of flock cameras deployed within the next year. In short, we are better equipped, better trained, and more experienced on the officers front, and we are better prepared now than at any time in our police department's history. The year 2020 had a profound impact and puts strain on the Mishawaka's fire department unlike any other year in our lifetime. But the firefighters and EMTs were there to answer the call uninterrupted. And they answered many, many more calls just last year. In fact, last year we had 9,658 calls for service. That is a whopping 17% increase over the year before. 16,437 apparatus responses. 7,318 of those calls were EMS in nature. 201 were calls for fires. That equates to about 1.3 calls per hour. And of those EMS calls, we did receive about $1.6 million in EMS fees collected, which was up 12%. A great milestone for the Mishawaka Fire Department took place on March of 2021. For the first time in our city's history, we had an all-female crew, cross-trained in fire and EMS, responding to calls for service. These two firefighters, Randy Sotelo and Jessica Bunker, prove gender doesn't determine how good you are at your job, but your knowledge, skills, and abilities do. Our department could not be prouder of these two firefighters, and we are excited for the future where this is becoming the new normal. When I first became mayor, my first priority for the Mishawaka Fire Department was to deploy a third ambulance into service full-time. Our sworn duty here is to serve the needs of our citizens and our growing city. And with run volume ever increasing, the time has come to add a fourth. To respond to the growing number of calls in our growing city, I propose that we hire 9 new public safety personnel in 2023. Each public safety officer that we hire is roughly an additional $100,000 to the budget and rising. And those are costs that we have to carry forever. We have right now 224 current public safety personnel. When you think about citywide, that is by far and away the largest amount of our staff working for the city. We have 128 non-utility civil city full-time employees. 116 are sworn fire, and 108 are sworn police now. I propose that we add 6 additional firefighters and that we hire 3 additional police officers. On the fire side, we must hire 6 full-time professional EMTs firefighters to staff that 4th ambulance 24/7, 365. I propose to use ARP funds to hire 3, a commitment that will fund these new EMTs for 3 years. To fund the remaining 3, I will ask the Mishawaka Common Council to increase EMS fees later this year. On the police side, we have increased staff consistently in my term, whether by using grant funding such as the COPS grant or civilianizing duties of some positions, freeing them up to hire uniform officers. I propose to hire 3 additional officers to deal with increased call volume in our growing city. And I propose that we pay for them using ARPA. So a 3-year commitment to pay for those officers. This will again be in the 2023 budget ask, and we could not hire them now if we tried because we're trying to keep up with the retirees that we have coming in and the set pools that we have of applicants. But this will only work if we can work in good faith with the FOP to increase shift strength from 9 officers on the street to 10. We want to do this because if we're going to hire more officers, we expect that to have those uniform officers on the street. It is important to know that we are already in line with what other Indiana comparable cities as far as staffing goes when it comes to population cities our size in both police and fire departments. And these additional personnel will put us on the higher end of staffing for communities with similar populations to Mishawaka. If the council wishes to fund the hiring of even more officers and firefighter EMTs, it has an option at its disposal. It could increase the public safety local option income tax a tool that is meant specifically to fund public safety. The max allowable by state law is 2.5% in the county. Our county is currently at 1.75%. Capacity is therefore at 0.75%. So if the council approved taking this option and increasing the public safety local option income tax to the max, and got either South Bend or St. Joe County to go along with it, it would generate $54 million in new revenue countywide for public safety specifically. 17% of the county's population is Mishawaka. Therefore, Mishawaka's share of that would be $9.18 million to use specifically for public safety. Another issue that somewhat came out of the pandemic is nuisance properties. Nuisance properties have been increasing slightly, partly due to the pandemic, as I said, but we're seeing all properties, residential in nature, commercial, or business, on this list of nuisance properties. We have employed a new strategy to target them. We have added a new code enforcement officer. We've got her hired, and she is out in the field as at this time. What that does, it frees up our director, who also had field duties, to stay into the office more, to mentor the public or the code enforcement officers that work in the department, now 5, and it allows the code enforcement director to now focus more on fines, liens, and sending problem properties to hearing. Over the course of the past year, we are employing every tool in our arsenal to go after nuisance properties. Some were residential, where moratoriums on evictions and foreclosures played a significant part of residential nuisance properties. On the commercial side, there wasn't a lot of new businesses starting up, and so some commercial properties stayed empty, and when property owners may get a little desperate, they may lease to people who may not have the best intentions. But we will, as I said, employ every tool in our toolbox to go after such businesses. And over the course of the past year, we went after businesses' liquor license. We went after businesses and shut them down who were not good actors. We will continue to do that, and we will also use targeted acquisition to acquire properties that might be blighted or that could turn a corner and go in an even worse direction. Last year we purchased the Burns facility. We purchased Love's, which will be tore down, I believe, starting in the next week. And most recently, and we'll talk about in a little bit, we acquired the Dodge property. To me, one of my principal duties starts with involving and preparing our future generations for leadership. This includes educating our youth about city government. There is no education about that out there, so I take it as my duty to provide that education. But we want to give them that and show them the value of their hometown. So we have a Mayor's Youth Advisory Program and have had over 175 youth council participants in my 12 years in office. They are making our community better, and they're making communities all over the world better with their service. We have alum serving in all parts of the United States, in all of the United States Service Academies. One just became a pilot just a month ago. We have many in major colleges. We have one who just got onto the Notre Dame football team. We have high-achieving athletes. We have one serving in the Vatican as a priest, and he's got my city youth council blanket draped over his chair, so it hangs on a chair in the Vatican, which I could not be more proud about. But ultimately, we hope that we can get some of these kids back right here at home, and we also have a few working right here for the city for service to their hometown. If I can ask our youth council members to please stand. I see 2. Well, I understand that the National Honor Society induction ceremony is tonight. For those of you standing, you better work on your grades and get them up, I think. No, I know that's at Mishawaka, and you both are different schools. But anyway, these kids are the best of the best. They have a lot of activities competing for their time. And these kids have chose to make their hometown future a priority. And I think it says all you need to know about them. They have my eternal thanks, and I love them like my own kids, especially since one is my own kid. But anyway, you can have a seat. I want to thank my assistant Lou Ann and Debbie in my office and my wife Jamie for kind of making sure the kids are moving in the right direction and for keeping this program a success that it is. Last year we had 32 members and we continued to meet as I swear them in as their members of government. They continue to meet throughout the pandemic, and I think it might have been their only regular meeting at one point in time. But anyway, what did they do last year? Well, they just built a park, city park. We gave them the assignment to build a city park. We gave them a budget and a clean sheet of paper and said, here you go. You got to work through government, planning commissions and park boards and all kinds of government bureaucracy to get this project done, and they did it. And on a beautiful Sunday on June 6th, the students greeted families and a couple of hundred people who came out for the ribbon cutting for what they call Heroes Park, the first of its kind anywhere that we know of, which is a park designed by teens for teens. It's over on 12th Street, Harrison, right next to our fire station, and it has a Ninja Warrior course conveniently located right next to the ambulance. And these students did it all. And in return, they received the State Project of the Year award from AIM, which is Accelerating Indiana's Communities, and they were recognized for their great work. These students have left a lasting piece of themselves in their hometown, and they can be very proud of the work that they did. And I think that they will be showing their grandkids this in decades in the future. But we will not forget their great efforts here. Speaking of Heroes Park, coming in the summer of 2022, the final piece of Heroes Park will come into existence, and that is Kennedy Court. The kids named the basketball court after one of their own, Devin Kennedy, who played for the Mishawaka Marion Knights, graduated, went on to Princeton University, and currently plays in the NBA and the NBA G League. We called up Devin and said, the kids want to name a basketball court in your honor, the court that he used to play on as a kid. And he said, that's great, but that court's really rough. I don't want my name attached to it. So instead he said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you $50,000 and go secure donations from his friends in the NBA. He did that, and we're waiting on the paint to come in, where the weather's finally coming to a point where we can do it, but we anticipate this court to open up this summer, and it'll have Devin's name on it, and he should be in attendance for that. But what a great hometown kid who's given back to his community. Economic growth has returned to a more normal trajectory. Only $40 million of commercial permits were issued in 2020, far below what we're used to seeing. Now it has returned. We saw last year $121.7 million in total construction. We saw increases in residential home building and also commercial construction, which is 25% higher than the 10-year rolling average, and we anticipate that that number will shoot up even higher this year. Some of the highlights of that were the Beacon Health Services, significant redevelop project, and exactly what the city was looking for as part of our ongoing redevelopment efforts downtown. This is on the corner of Lincoln Way and Church. It included the sale of our Mishawaka Utilities business office. It's a $20.5 million project all in. Phase one really has already started with, which is $12.5 million. The building is already being demolished, and Phase 2, which would include the property where our utility office sits on, will be next. It's another $8 million project, and part of the agreement includes the shared use of a portion of surface parking, not only for the business during the day, Beacon's uses during the day, but for city uses during nights and weekends. Very good partnership. Front Street development. It's one that has made the presentation before, but it kind of stalled out. Well, now look for this to be under construction very soon. In fact, if you go to site, you'll see site activity in the form of soil borings and some earth moving down there right now. What is it? It is a 150 plus residential unit mixed use building that includes restaurant space on the lower level, as well as some residential space on the higher upper floors. This is an updated rendering of what it will look like pretty exactly. Here's a overhead door that will open up for the restaurant space. This is on the corner of Front and Mill Street right downtown, or Front and Spring Street right downtown, also bordered by Hill Street and First Street. Just a couple of other views. This will be under construction very soon. No city incentives. Some of the up-to-date amenities that will be included in the project. Another reason to be optimistic on the city's trajectory is our continued ability to partner with state and regional entities. Similar to the past Regional Cities program in 2021, the state of Indiana sought proposals to distribute $50 million awards to 10 different regions. The initiative is called the Regional Economic Acceleration and Development Initiative. We refer to it affectionately as READY. Our region received the full amount asked for, which was $50 million. One wrinkle that has come about is that the state decided to fund the program using federal ARPA funds, which we also received. But those funds have imposed many restrictions that did not exist with the Regional Cities program. So therefore, we've got to be pretty creative on how we get our projects ready, how we propose new projects, and how we set up our applications and how we use those funds. But in Mishawaka, we are hopeful to provide funding to at least 3 big projects. Ready 1, the Mill, Phase 2. It's a 215-unit mixed-use residential complex, a $48 million project and growing. The folks from Flaherty & Collins have already applied for and received $8 million in industrial recovery tax credit funds from Indiana, the IEDC, Indiana Economic Development Commission. The city would have to come up with some incentives to pull this project off as well as READY. So what it would look like for city incentives might be the creation of a new TIF district to hold the bond. Why is this project so important? And here you see it's a former Uniroyal site, the former industrial site, the coal yard, as some of you may remember it, on the corner of Hill Street and Front Street. Why is it important? As you know, the ability to attract and maintain quality talent within our state is invaluable in advancing the economic climate of our community. Quality of life is one of the main factors young professionals consider when choosing where to start their careers. People pick where they want to work, or they'll pick where they want to live rather than their job first. And the proposed mixed-use building will certainly serve as an attraction for those considering to make Mishawaka their home. And this just isn't hearsay. Flaherty & Collins shared with us some of the demographics of the tenants who have moved into the mill. Within a year of completion of the first phase of the mill, residential units were near full. But who moved in? 85% of the tenants came from areas outside of Mishawaka. 33% came from outside of the state of Indiana. The average age of the tenants is 33 years old. The average household income is in excess of 120 million or 120,000 per year. Essentially, people who can choose to live anywhere are choosing to live downtown Mishawaka. This is a big reason why our population is increasing and we are seeing more private investment. Success breeds success. Ready 2, our second regional or ready proposal is our much discussed Mishawaka Fieldhouse, a destination for youth sports here in Mishawaka. It is now closing in on a 350,000 square foot building with 8 courts for volleyball and basketball and others, and 2 turf fields indoor. We are also looking to do 4 flex fields outdoor for things such as baseball, softball, soccer, and other sports. And part of the reason for the delay is that we have secured 1% of innkeeper's tax through the state of Indiana and General Assembly dedicated to this project. So we are looking for a fall groundbreaking. One thing it will not have, at least at this point in time, but could be a future phase, is ice. We could not convince the leadership of the Icebox to support this project. We were hoping for some bigger vision, and we did not get it there. Our final ready project is the George Wilson Park, which has long been in need of some TLC. It is, we think, has the potential to become a regional destination park. Has very unique topography. We would like to see this. Right now it's the home of things like our Slide to Hill events and our inner tubing in the winter. But we'd also like to see it grow and include a year-round sliding feature with unique opportunities for things as bigger concerts and bigger venues, or a bigger venue for all kinds of performances. So a stage might be included, maybe a cabin to serve as kind of the home base for our growing summer camps that we have through our Parks Department. We also see a need for a much improved restroom facility there in the park, as well as much better parking and access off of Dragoon as well as Clover Road. Building and rebuilding our infrastructure is required to substantially grow at the slow and steady pace that we have been accustomed to, and to adapt to changes in society. And it is needed just to maintain services and improve our quality of life here at home. I'm pleased to be able to report on some of the big projects you will see coming up this year. Perhaps most visible and potentially the most frustrating to the public will be the intersection improvements on First and Main Street and Front Street and Church Street that you will see. We have done a traffic study over the course of the past couple of years, and out of that traffic study we have already removed unwarranted signals at First and Main and at Third and Main to improve not only traffic flow through there but also pedestrian safety. And now you can look for a new signal to come on the corner of Main and Front Street. Traffic's been stacking up there lately. New businesses are getting ready to open up this summer. We are in need of better traffic flow to serve the site, as well as better pedestrian improvements there. You can expect construction to start about April. With it will come streetscape improvements to include new median plantings, decorative colored concrete intersections, updated crosswalks, new pedestrian nodes and seat walls, landscaping planning, as well as on the corner of Church and Main Streets. The good news is the parade is back. The bad news is that we have to reroute it this coming year due to the construction not just at these intersections but also our own City Hall project at Main Street. Last year was a great year for Mishawaka streets. This is the time of the season where the mortal enemy of all mayors shows up, the diabolical pothole, and you will see fewer of those in Mishawaka because of our great efforts last year. We've secured, we used multiple funding sources, combined a total of $6.58 million in repaving efforts last year alone. That's 4 times the investment made the year before. We touched all parts of the city, main roads as well as residential streets. And we use a grading scale to grade our streets, and our streets, I can promise you, are better graded than most communities you will find anywhere in northern Indiana. The reason I don't have to get out and patch holes with the crews on days like today is that we're putting big efforts into our street repaving year after year. This year, our biggest street repaving project will be Jefferson. We received Community Crossings Award from the state of Indiana of $975,180. This is a dollar-for-dollar matching grant. It will be used for the thoroughfare of Jefferson from Cedar to Burkett and down Burkett from Burkett to LaSalle Avenue. What we plan to do is a road diet. In that section, you'll go from 2 lanes to 4 lanes back to 3 lanes. We plan to do 3 lanes through the entire corridor of Jefferson to do traffic in each direction plus a center turn lane. And we will also do a trail construction along the side of Jefferson and Burkett. So that will better serve the growing residential area. Over closer to downtown, we are probably our most expensive road project this year will be the 3rd Street improvements that we are about to undertake. This starts off as a sewer project, but we will replace all infrastructure within the corridor along 3rd Street and Spring. So phase 1 starts from Hill to Main on 3rd Street and also Spring Street. Phase 2, which will be in the future, will be more Main to Race going underneath Church Street. And phase 3 will be from Race Street to Cedar Street, in which will also fix the crook in the road there on 3rd Street. But look for this project as a significant sewer project with also some enhanced streetscape. We will replace all lead water service in the area in the corridor, as well as improve curbs, gutters, street light, and all of that. Sewer separation and our neighborhood revitalization plan that I reported on and that we created last year. I affectionately refer to it as the Wood Long-Term Control Plan. Will also hopefully continue this year alone, or this year as well. Last year we worked on 6th and 7th Street in front in the old West End over by St. Bavo Church. But what we're doing with this project is we're trying to fix the sins of the past, like lead water service, mismatched pipe sizes, low capacity pipes, and also it will benefit our long-term control plan and increase our capability, our capacity at the plant. This also prevents basements in the area from flooding and also provides some really attractive above ground improvements such as curb, sidewalks, streetscaping, landscaping, a redevelopment project in an area that needs it and it benefits. Our next phase, provided we get ARPA support to do this project, will be from West Street from 7th to 8th, including the 8th Street intersection, from 7th Street from Wells to Spring, from Wells Street from 6th to 7th, Spring Street from 6th to 7th. And if you look at it on a map, it looks like a goalpost, I'm told. So, but anyway, we will look to do that project this year, working around the school schedule. And our ultimate goal is to, with this whole corridor, is to get from West Street, this project, all the way down to Rose Park and around Rose Park on 15th and 16th Street with sewer service, which it currently does not have. My top regulatory priority continues to be the renegotiation of our unfunded mandate, our long-term control plan, our consent decree with the United States EPA and Department of Justice. I spent a great deal of time on this last year, and I will not spend much time on it this year. You know what I am talking about. It is our biggest risk to our ratepayers. And it is flat out not common sense in government that has put us into this position. We're attempting to overcome that. We have spent over $200 million to eliminate 99.5% of a problem. We have to spend another $160 million to eliminate 0.5%. Does that make sense to anyone? It does not to me. And I'm certainly not going to put that on the backs of our ratepayers, which would take sewer bills up to and surpassing $150 per month. Will not do that. So we are negotiating. We're making progress. Some recent events just within the past year, IDEM has come around to our side of thinking. We think that that's a positive step. We expect to land, we're held at 0 overflows now. We expect to land somewhere between 3 and 4 overflows. And it could be wrapped up this year. And in fact, I'm assured by our wastewater division manager, Carl Kopek, that it will be wrapped up this year. So I wrote that one down in our predictions meeting at the very first meeting of the year. I often say that one of the fundamentals of a thriving community is represented by what our citizens are able to take for granted. Our city's utilities are not only a basic necessities of life that our citizens can completely take for granted, but they are also key to our strategic growth. While I believe that our utilities have the potential to give us a competitive advantage to attract new business well into the future, we're also trying to keep pace with the federal and state regulations and unfunded mandates which force us to walk the line between our obligations to comply with mandates and keeping rates competitive. And I just referred to some of that we're dealing with. But on the electric side, we had an unexpected PJM pass-through. This is a mandatory, non-Mishawaka utility regional grid transmission charge that came to us. My good friend Jim Schrader used to say, we don't even get to smell the money as it passes right on by through our, between our customers and to the company PJM. But anyway, that increased in 2021 and 2022. The increase averaged about $4, was about a $4 increase to the average utility customer. But it is important to note that our average bill is still less than it was in 2020. So that was because we went into a new purchase power agreement with a new company, and that is still benefiting us, not only on our utility payers' bills, but also we're still modernizing our own grid, which will be much better, more suited to grow as we grow as a city, and also to kind of keep our electric the most reliable and affordable electric power anywhere you will find in this region. Over at Jude Creek, we're still working on our 8.2 million gallon per day capacity water treatment plant that is going up on Veterans Parkway on the very east side of Jude Creek Golf Course. It is starting to take shape. Simultaneously, we have a 1.5 million gallon elevated tank that is being constructed. It's about 85 feet out of the ground at our former Gumwood well field up just at the corner, by the corner of Cleveland and Gumwood. What these two projects will do will help us to increase pressure on our north side University Park Pressure District, but also service long-term growth and allow us the ability to take an old well field treatment plant offline, such as Virgil, which is nearing 100 years old, probably a little older, that we need to get in and do some work to. We expect completion on these projects to come in about 2023, and I'm told that they're on budget. Yes, I just got yes, they're on budget. So. One of our biggest projects of the year will come in the form of the Mishawaka Fire Station number 2 replacement. We're replacing the smallest fire station facility with the largest. The potential to serve here as a central station comes with this project, which will be located on the vacant property just south of Liberty School on McKinley. We are already in design. We have reserved about $7.6 million for the project. Just as a reference, the fire station number 4, currently sitting on Harrison Road, was about a $3.5 to $4 million project, which I did probably in my first term about 10 years ago. It was a $3.5 million project, so we figured this one might be double. We have received some recent estimates that we're looking at a $10 million plus facility. So that's how much costs are going up for us. We are currently reevaluating the scope, but we still anticipate that construction will start at the end of this year. Amenity infrastructure has now become top priority in many cities and towns in the Hoosier State and beyond. There's an important distinction between communities that invest in quality of life and those that don't. Those that do are growing, those that don't aren't. Mishawaka has always been known for, we've always known this for years, and we are also known for our high quality of life projects. And we are growing as a result of making those investments. Just last year, we put in a new Founders Circle attraction at the very east end of Buter Park. This is significant, not just because it replaced the crop circle, as I referred to it, at the eastern end of the park, but this was the site of Mishawaka's founding 189 years ago. This is the site that the windmill was built on about 100 years ago, and it was very important to Mishawaka's history. And so we wanted to memorialize this site and the key figures that made Mishawaka the city it is today with a very small park project. We were able to complete that last year, and it was dedicated with members of our Mishawaka Historic Preservation, our Historian Laureate, Pete DeKeever, and a very special Historic Board, Preservation Board member, Faye Sullivan, was there to help us, and her husband Bob is here. And we couldn't be more proud and indebted to her service, so thank you. She passed away earlier this year. And last year we found out that pickleball seemed to be the biggest, fastest growing sport, and it's certainly the case in the Princess City. We were able to take an underutilized basketball court at Central Park that was in pretty rough shape. We put in a new regional pickleball facility, and hundreds of people showed up overnight, and they've been there since, for the weather permitting. But anyway, not only is the extra use in the park very welcome, but it's also the continual investment in Central Park and all of our parks that I think is noteworthy here. So now I understand that the Pickleball Association has even come back to us and offered to fund even more courts at this site where the tennis court is. So we'll see how that plays out. I'm putting them on the spot. Over the summer, Temple Park will go from being outdated to a neighborhood gem. Well, where is Temple Park, you might add? It's kind of off the beaten path. It's right across Chestnut, right across from the old bowling alley by Jefferson. And it's a park that was in need of a lot of attention for a long time. Had the worst restroom in the city until we took that out last year. And so we have put in place a funding source using CEDIT to go after and update these kind of off the beaten path neighborhood parks, these key civic parks in their, the kind of the town square of their neighborhood. And we have a dedicated funding source to renovating these parks. This funding source has made a huge difference in places like Twin Branch Park, and now we're going to start that at Temple Park. So what you can expect to see there this year is a new playground. There's already a new restroom, a new shelter. We're going to do a new gazebo, a new walking path around the park, and we received a $45,000 grant from the St. Joe County Community Foundation to do some new amenities there for special needs. So you can expect a braille wall to be there. This came out of a neighborhood meeting we had with the neighborhood in which case we had a special request for that, and we're going to honor that. And we couldn't be more pleased than to get grant funding to help us with that. Over at Battelle Park, this year's MISHDIM 1.0 project will go into Battelle Park, and we're going to do some improvements to and expand the Veterans Plaza. We're also going to do a new playground and splash pad, which the splash pad is not even functional. We can barely get it to work. But future phases look for wedding garden, a bridge over the popular WPA rock garden, as well as tennis court refurbishment. But what are we doing this year? Veterans Plaza, we're putting in a new monument to honor Mishawaka's war dead from all wars. It's a small granite monument at the opposite end of our Soldiers and Sailors Monument. It will have a brick walkway that connects the two. We'll be able to sell bricks for veterans, Mishawaka veterans. And then along the way, we're going to have informational displays for Mishawaka's contribution to the various wars in our past, from the Revolutionary War all the way through present day. We're very proud of this, and we think that it's something that is very much needed in our historic park, right along our Memorial Day parade route. These are looks at our playground and splash pad that will be under construction there this year. We're finalizing the designs right now. Over at Crawford Park, you can expect phase 1 of park improvements to begin this year. You will see a new restroom, new splash pad, new shelter, and new playground equipment. This will be kind of timber themed for a natural play setting. Future phases of the park will include things like a wetland and kind of a boardwalk and some natural trails walking through parts of the park. These are looks at what the splash pad and playground will be. And then one of our biggest projects of the year will be the half a mile stretch of the new Riverwalk section that will complete the 3.5 mile loop that is downtown. So we'll have one continuous loop from Cedar Street Bridge all the way over to Logan Street Bridge without having to cross traffic. This section is particularly challenging to build, but I also think it has the most scenic potential, and it has some adapted new features. And the bid for this will be open tomorrow at the Board of Public Works, so pray for a low bid and multiple bidders. The trailhead for the new Riverwalk section will be called Marvin's Garden. Why Marvin's Garden? There's nothing in the state of Indiana to really honor Marv Wood, who was a basketball coach you might recognize as the coach of the Milan 54 basketball team, the Miracle Milan team, that little school that went and won state championship before classes were established. Marv and his wife chose to move to Mishawaka, where he served on the council. He served at Mishawaka High School, coached basketball here locally, and we think the time has come to create not only a basketball amenity here that honors him and the Milan connection that we have, but also it's a chance for us to go to our community and see and create an attraction, but also have community input and involvement in that project as well. So this is at the corner of Lincoln Way and Cedar Street. It will serve as a kind of a gateway garden, much like Kate's Garden does on the opposite end over by the Logan Street Bridge, almost a gateway right into the downtown. And in the middle of it will be a signature sculpture created by a Mishawaka artist, and it will be a scene from the movie Hoosiers, where little Milan team, little Hickory team goes into Hinkle Fieldhouse. They're in awe of the huge size, and so the coach, Marv, has them measure the basketball goal 10 foot, just like your gym back home. So we're going to create that sculpture. We think that this will be a statewide attraction that will bring people interested in not only that team, but in basketball in general to this site and to our downtown. And we are seeking private funding to make it happen. In fact, we're going to partner with Patronicity. It's a statewide partnership through Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority, and they provide matching funds. So if our community gives, Patronicity matches. And so we have a website already set up, and we're going to be going public with this in the very near future. We'll let you know when. Downtown around the corner, close to the far east end there of Buter Park, you've been watching as the Ironworks building has come out of the ground. This has been long planned, this project, for, gosh, a better part of a decade. This is our replacement to Merrifield Park, our ice rink there, which we do not think we'll be able to get to work for one more year. This was probably our last, and we barely got it to work this year. But I'm told we're on schedule for a November turnover for this premier regional amenity, which will include a public house cafe, our Ironworks skating facility, a skating loop and plaza that can flood, an event center over the skating facility that has some of the most breathtaking views of Mishawaka that you will find, and that will be available for public. And we will open it up and kick things off with a huge Winterfest celebration. So we're planning to have a lighted Christmas parade to bring Santa Claus in, as we usually do, but we're also planning a Christmas market, and we're planning a big ice skating event, as well as lighting our city Christmas tree, which will be on this site. Look for that to take the place of our Winterfest that happened at Merrifield Park, and will happen this early December. Also, during the summer, you'll be able to use the Ironworks space for things such as our farmers market, different art festivals, all kinds of new events and capabilities that we'll be able to have right downtown as a result of this facility. Part of the project is we're going to light the bridge. Since the erection of its erection in 2008, the Mishawaka Cable Stayed Bridge has been one of the iconic images reflective of our community, and we want to emphasize that at night too. And so look for lighted cables in the coming year or so, which will have different designs and kind of provide that cool factor downtown at night. Of course, our biggest project is progressing very nicely, and that's our City Hall, our police station, and our Mishawaka Utilities Business Office building, the former Liberty Mutual building. And I think that these renderings and current photos are pretty compelling in that they really got the look of the rendering and sold us. I mean, they're very accurate in what they told us we were going to get. And so as you can see, work is progressing. They've stopped blowing up the building, and they're putting it all back together. And we can expect turnover in mid-July, on budget and on schedule. I believe, close to on budget. But so far, so good. We've avoided most of the supply chain issues here. They're actually painting and hanging furniture on the upper parts of this building right now, so it is coming along. This is a look of the City Hall that you may be sitting in next year when I'm delivering this address. And then that's the top slide. The bottom slide is the Mishawaka Utilities Business Office. And there you can see both are drywalled. This is the site, which is starting to take shape. So if you've noticed, they're staining the brick around the outer part of the building as of this week. The copper accent pieces are going in, as well as some remaining windows. But on the site, they've gotten rid of the old drive-through off of Lincoln Way. Crews have been establishing the new parking lot to the southwest corner. And then in the middle of it, we'll have more of a campus kind of feel of the building, which will really go from Lincoln Way all the way down to our river with kind of a college campus view all the way down. So the river on the north side, the church as the focal point of the south side. And police will have their own secure parking lot. Each side of the building will have an entrance. Our Mishawaka Utilities will enter off of Main Street. City Hall enters off of Lincoln Way. Police station enters off of First Street. So really one building, but 3 separate storefronts. Inside we operate as one, where I call it citizen-centric. The public comes in, maybe you want to pull 2 or 3 permits and talk to several departments. We come to you, we don't ask you to go to 5 different departments. We found a way to do that in a logical way for us that really provides for much better, much more efficient service to our citizens at a very central location. Then our biggest future project, one that gives me great anxiety sometimes, but we've just put this one in the queue. It wasn't even on our radar last year, but I consider this a true legacy project. Dodge, synonymous with Mishawaka in certain ways. My dad worked there, as did thousands of Mishawaka people over the course of their existence, which started in the early 1880s and went all the way till the early 2000s. The property was left. It was mostly cleaned environmentally when they left, but there is a lot of debris on the site, still some environmental issues to take care of, but the site is decaying. It will never be better. It has so much, when I look at it, it has so much potential. When you think about big timber trusses and beams and old windows and old planking, but it just cannot be saved. It would be too expensive. And if we don't, it's for sale, and if we don't step in and buy it, it is not going to get any prettier. And in fact, we will continue to fight it with our police department. We've already seen the second biggest fire in city history, second only to the Great Fire of 1872, and we've certainly had code enforcement out there. If we don't take advantage of this opportunity now, that will only increase, and we will be forever regretful of it. The cost to not act would be far greater than the cost to act. We anticipate spending about $13 million in this project over the next 5 years, which will essentially clean the site and demo the buildings and get it ready, prep it for redevelopment. I think that the site's history is significant, but the site's future could even be a better story going forward. Another park in need of some TLC, one that's been overlooked, as you can see from now, I think the worst takes on the distinction of the worst restroom in the city of Mishawaka, Normain Park. We're doing currently a master plan for the park. We will then go to the neighborhood, as we do with all of our projects. We go to the neighborhood first and we ask for their input and we listen. And so you can expect a neighborhood meeting for Normain Park in the next couple of months. We'd like to see, as part of this project, some Miracle Park-like amenities. That is, again, it's a ball diamond that is accessible to all. And one unique part of this that could play into this is Old Fire Station number 2. I would like to see that building. Fond of the look of that building, growing up and watching Emergency as I did. Looks like the emergency station, but it's still in decent shape. I'd still like to see it as a part of the Main Street corridor there. I could see it maybe used as a teen center, being located so close to John Young Middle School. So it could play into the park development, and we would look obviously for a partner to work with on that if we can sell them on that vision. Then there's Rose Park. I will tell you that my very first campaign promise was to redo Rose Park. That was back in 1999. As you can see, I haven't followed through on my promise too well, because I got elected and found out that, well, there is no easy way to renovate Rose Park, because we can't even do curbs and sidewalk there because there are no sewers there. So now we're getting the sewer down West Street to get to the park, but we're not going to wait on that. Next year, we're going to start with a significant Rose Park improvement that is long overdue. Again, we're going to go to the neighborhood and we are going to see what they want in their neighborhood park. We will do that this year. We'll start phase 1 of construction in 2023. But this park is close to home for me and all of my family. On my mom's side, this was the hometown park. So I have a very specific vision of what I would like to see in this park. And that is something that kind of pays homage to the area and to the activity of the West End. So I would love to see new and improved bocce ball courts in the park. I would love to see an outdoor Belgian bowling area in the park. This park used to be the home of the World Wiffle Ball Championships. I would love to see a wiffle ball field in this park. In the winter, we might be able to do things like curling in there. I think pickleball would be home here, as well as Gaga pits. I still don't know what it is, but it's very popular within our parks. I think a dog run might make sense here, a patio area, certainly a new playground splash pad, some shelters, and a new restroom. But again, that's my vision. The neighborhood's vision will win. All right. In a presentation of big projects, it's the small projects that can have the most meaning and can be the most special. Sometimes I get accused of building too many monuments, and that is because I believe a community is defined by who it honors and who it remembers. We have a lot of Mishawakans here that are worthy of our highest honor and remembrance, none more than our fallen officers. This year we will relocate our police memorial from where it sits now in front of the Mishawaka Police Department to where it will sit in front of our new Mishawaka Police Department. One of the things that I have promised our officers is that we will do it in a very tasteful way, and we will run every improvement by them. So you can expect not only the great amenities that are at our current memorial to come over to this new site, but we will certainly add to it and make them more visible with a lot of new amenities, including a sculpture. And one amenity in particular that I wanted to do was a blue light to heaven. And I found out how complicated that can be. We started planning a blue light to heaven that will shine at night. The FAA wasn't too thrilled about that. So we conducted some testing late night downtown Mishawaka, and we think we've come up with a solution so that we can still have our blue light to heaven, and we won't be redirecting planes, and the FAA will sign off on it. So we're very excited about that. But this will be right at the center of our new City Hall campus, as it should be that way, all for our citizens to walk by, to pay their respects to our brave men who gave their lives for service to the city. There is no greater calling than that, and deserves my recognition and all of our remembrance. Then we're leaving here, and we've got a big Princess located just to our west, and so the Princess is moving. Where is the Princess moving, you might ask? Well, if you go on the very far east side of Battelle Park, right smack dab across from St. Monica's Church, the Princess is moving there, right as you enter into the Riverwalk from Mishawaka Avenue. So we are currently in planning with DLZ to relocate the Princess, and it will be seen by a lot more people, be a much more visible attraction in the city, and I think fits very nicely into our historic park. So look for that improvement to happen this year. And then recently, a pet project of mine drew some national attention. For the second straight year, we became a top trending story nationally on USA Today's Golf Week magazine. For the second time, Who would have ever thought about it? I've always dreamed of making it big in golf, but I didn't quite picture it like this. It wasn't my golfing prowess, but it was the buried treasure that made news. Thanks to the St. Joseph County Drainage Board, under the leadership of John Law and our county surveyor, John McNamara, who committed to dredging out Willow Creek because it was getting choked out from sediment and vegetation and not draining properly. They came in, did some work, and we found some historic treasures created by the Works Progress Administration under Franklin Delano Roosevelt back in the 1930s. It was Mishawaka's big project of 1935, and it was a significant park project, and then come about 1950 or so, it was buried, a lot of it. It wasn't historic back then. These WPA treasures built by Mishawaka citizens for the sole purpose of keeping them busy working so that they could put food on their tables and feed their families. And a lot of it was buried, and just this last year we uncovered some very unique features, including an oxbow off of Willow Creek and an island. Now we get to play over that and lose a few more golf balls. We have exposed a new fork of the creek all the way to where it ends near the St. Joe River, and exposed a new bridge made of stone. It's almost like our St. Andrew's Bridge right here in Mishawaka. These are one-of-a-kind amenities that no other course has, and we need to accentuate, and couldn't be more proud to dig those up. In fact, I went down there, and I think the staff allowed me to think that I was the project manager, but I think when I left, they told them how it was really going to go, and they did an outstanding job of being creative, finding a way to pay for it. The St. Joe County Drainage Board paid a significant chunk of it, but we want to make these accessible for all of our citizens the way they were intended back in the 1930s, and so very proud of this project. We're also doing some other sorely needed improvements down there at our golf course, and I'd like to ask for your prayers for George Fowler. He is our golf course superintendent, and he has had some health issues and has been in the hospital for now a couple of months. And so, great guy, salt of the earth kind of guy, lives, breathes, is passionate about this place, and is sorry he can't be here to witness this and put together the mess that we've made, put it back together, the mess we've made for him, but keep him in your prayers. He is a great guy, Mishawaka public servant. So while we face some volatility in the economy, some challenges in the regulatory front, and some uncertainty beyond our borders, you can see that we have a lot to be proud of here in the Princess City, and I couldn't be more optimistic about the trajectory of our beloved hometown. Our fundamentals are strong and getting stronger. We are creating our own good fortune through sound policy, through wise investments, collaborative partnerships, and I think we've earned some trust with our community stakeholders to get big projects done. I don't know about you, but I can't wait to see the next new big projects that are sure to come that we don't even yet know about as a result of our strong fundamentals. Before closing, I'd also like to thank my family, without whom nothing is possible in my life, including my wife Jamie, who is here, and my son James. I'd also like to thank the citizens of Mishawaka for providing me this special opportunity to serve. I consider it the most important work of my life to serve my hometown in this way. I still love it. I'm inspired by it. I find it challenging and rewarding, and I never, ever take it for granted. In a season of Oscars, I'll quote a line from one of my favorite Oscar-winning movies: "There is no place like home." And there's no place that I'd rather be, and there's no one that I'd rather be sharing this journey with than all of you. I'm running out of ways to say it, but never doubt that I mean it. With that, I'm done here, but the big work begins. Thank you. May the princess always look over your shoulder, and may God bless our citizens and our staff and our beloved Princess City, and may God bless you. Thank you very much. I'll go off script.